And this is a very rhetorical question. Why do websites exist? And I kind of covered this already, but it's to sell stuff, right? We have an economy, and whether you want to be a cynic like me, it's always about selling stuff. Whether you're selling ideas, you're selling products, you're selling goods, services, whatever it is, at the end of the day, you have a thing that you want other people to do, right? And analytics helps you understand how to do that thing better, right? If you didn't have analytics, you would have no idea how whatever you have is performing. So analytics helps you understand what are people doing and how can I do what I want them to do better, more efficiently, cheaper. So we're gonna, like I kind of was saying before, we're gonna do some basics just so everyone's on the same page, and then we're gonna get more and more and more advanced. I'm gonna talk about some metrics, and the reason I wanna talk about this is that there's so many metrics, balance rates, whatever. They're often confused. People don't really know what they are. Like they hear them, but don't really understand what they are and how they work. So I wanna cover just 3, users, sessions, and page views. The example that I use, I think this is a brilliant example. I did not come up with it, I'm not that smart, but I think it's great. So if you think of us going shopping, right? So I am one person, I'm gonna go to a mall. And in the mall, I can go to the mall multiple times in a particular week. I can go to the mall on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. I got a problem. I go to the mall too often, right? And then in the mall, there's different stores. And in those different stores, I can look at different things in each one of the stores. So the analogy is basically the person is a user, and hopefully it's a real person. There's a lot of bots, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So we're gonna pretend it's an ideal world and you're a real person. The trip to the mall is a session. So in a particular time range, let's say a week, I can go to the mall 5 times. So that's 5 sessions. I'm still one person, one user, but I've now made 5 sessions. And then when I was in the mall, each time, I went to see 3 different things. I went to Zara, I went to H&M, I went to somewhere else my wife shops, I have no idea. I haven't been to a mall in a while, so she dresses me. So that's kind of how that works. So they're all related, and the key thing here is it's all about a time range, right? You have to have a time range when you're analyzing this. So in a month, we have this many users who've come to our site this many times, who've looked at this content. All good?
Yep.
Awesome. Sessions, how are they defined? So, I'll skip the tracking code part. The important thing about sessions is that it is specific to a device, right? It's actually more specific, it's specific to a browser. And this trips up a lot of marketing people because they always ask, like, how many people came to our site? And the answer is actually not so simple because you need to quantify that, you need to qualify that. If I'm on my phone and I'm using Chrome, that is one user. If I'm on my laptop and using the same Chrome, that's another user. If I switch to Safari, that's yet another user. Google Analytics has no way to connect all of those things unless you implement something called user ID, and for that you need to have logged in functionality. So if someone logs in, then you can stitch all of their sessions together, and then you have, hey, Vadim logged in on mobile, he logged in on Chrome, he did all these different things. So that's how you sort of put it all together. Sessions time out after 30 minutes by default. You can change that. So if for whatever reason marketing decides that the session you want it to be 50 minutes, you can do that as well. A very common use case is where probably all you guys do it. You got 10 tabs open and you're looking at one and you're creating more and more tabs, and the site you were looking at is somewhere in the background. Well, that site is going to time out in 30 minutes because you're not looking at it. So if you do decide to come back to it after an hour, the next thing you click on, that's going to start a new session. And there's also some weird site that happens at midnight, but we're not going to talk about that. It's too complicated. Talked about that. This one is really tricky. This one trips up a lot of people. Time metrics on Google Analytics are super funky. The way Google calculates time is that it looks at timestamps between 2 pages, right? So you go to the home page and then you go to the pricing page. So now you have 2 timestamps, and it takes the difference between the 2, and that's how long you've been on the site or that particular page. Okay? Now the key thing there is it needs 2. So if you have a bounce rate of 80%, that means, and a bounce rate means a person has only gone to 1 page. If you have a bounce rate of 80%, all of your time metrics are only based on 20% of the users, because Google has no way to figure out when the next timestamp happened. So I'm going to reiterate it again, because that is super confusing. So people come to your website, your bounce rate is 80%. Bounce means they saw one page, there were no 2 pages. Google has no way to calculate how long you spent on your site. It discards all that. It doesn't look at anybody that bounced. So if 80% of your people bounced, it's not using any of that to calculate any session duration metrics, any time metrics. So if you got 80% bounce rate and you're saying average session duration is, a minute and a half, it's not actually a minute and a half. You don't really know what it is. And there are technical ways to do that. You use events and get an engagement timer, and it fires events as people are doing stuff, and then that is what you use for people that, if you have a high bounce rate, and honestly, that's what you should always use, because the time metrics in Google are super not reliable. If you have questions, I can send links in terms of like, how do you build this engagement timer, because it has a bunch of work that you need to do in Google Tag Manager, in Google Analytics. You're creating custom dimensions. So we'll shoot me an email, I'll send you guys where to go. One thing to know with sessions is that they only demonstrate how many people are coming. They're not telling you what people are doing on the page, right? So again, very common marketing questions like, what are people doing on my website? And all you have is, they went to this page, and then went to that page, and they went to that page, which doesn't actually say anything. You don't know what they're doing on that page. Any particular page, you may have interactive modules, you may have calendars and drop dates, and like sign up for newsletter. Like there's a million things that you have that will give you a better idea of engagement, but you're not tracking any of those things. So something's missing, and I'm really hoping this thing works. Come on. Make me proud. Sweet, this actually works. So this is actually one of our clients, and I actually was there early. I came from here, Museum of San Francisco, a lovely place. So with this guy, I have a laser pointer, but it doesn't work on the screen. I'm very disappointed. This is a debugger called Data Slayer. Everyone should download it. If you use anything with Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Adobe, Data Slayer. Don't use Google Tag Assistant. I'm going to cover that later, but just in case I don't, Data Slayer. That is the debugger you're going to use. So what this is showing on the right-hand side, and actually I don't know if everyone can see that, but what this is showing is the UA, which is the property ID. So where is your data going? It's showing you how is it getting there. So you got Google Tag Manager, it's showing you the actual container code. And then it's showing you different events. So as I'm clicking on stuff on this side, events are firing. That's the missing link. You need events. If you want to deliver your marketing clients, your organization, good value, you need events. Because you can get super granular, you can tag everything on your website, and then you can do something about it. Because just showing them number of sessions isn't gonna help anyone. So what this is showing you is, I clicked on a bunch of those social links, it fires events, and I'm capturing, Instagram and YouTube, and this was Tumblr and something else. So let's see if I can do it again.
These are events that you created, right?
In Google Tag Manager, correct, yeah. So the olden ways before Google Tag Manager is you have to go to a developer with a giant list of code, tell them like, hey developer, please implement these on that button, and that button, and that button, and then your developers hate you. Because you've just added so much overhead to the stuff that they actually have to do, because the last priority usually is analytics, right? Because your site can launch without analytics. No one's gonna be happy about it, but it can happen. So as I'm also noticed scroll tracking, that's cool. Right, so if you got to pay, you have a landing page, you have a high bounce rate on your landing page, so a lot of people are leaving, but that's not really a bad thing, right? If it's a landing page, that's totally fine. Scroll tracking is going to help you identify how far down the page did they go, how interested were they. So if you have a high bounce rate, but then you have, let's say 50% of your people went to 75% of the page, it's pretty damn good, right? So that means that bounce rate doesn't really matter. The bounce rate is the absolute worst metric. You should never use that as a KPI. There's no such thing as a good or bad bounce rate. And industry benchmarks for bounce rates are garbage. And I say that in the most friendly way. But seriously, it's basically because every single website is completely different. So trying to compare different websites and their bounce rates doesn't make sense. If you think of a news organization, think of BBC, CNN, Fox, whatever. They all have really high bounce rates, and then probably in the 90s, because people come for that one story that they care about, and then they leave. So did they achieve what they wanted to? Yes, they read the story. It's great.
That wouldn't be the same for email campaigns, for example.
No, if you're emailing people, your people have opted in, so they want to receive communications from you. So if you have a high bounce rate from email, there's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So usually the things that have a high bounce rate is going to be paid social. That usually has by far the highest bounce rates. Then you're going to have display advertising. Then you're going to have sometimes direct. Direct traffic is going to go in there, and direct is usually broken traffic. So in the sort of 5-10 years ago, people used to say direct is people that are bookmarking. That's not really happening much, unless you work for like a bank, where every month someone clicks on a link and they go to a bank and they log in. But for a lot of consumer websites, direct traffic is usually something that broke along the way, and Google has no idea where to categorize your traffic, so it's going to just throw it under direct. That's kind of how that works. So yeah, so paid social is usually the worst performer. Then you have display, and then you have everything else, and everything else really depends on what you have. But organic search is usually the best, because people are basically looking for you. They know exactly what they're looking for, and they're trying to find you. So the missing piece is events. Event tracking is a thing you're after. That is the thing that you're going to be able to demonstrate real value with. All right. Hiya. Come on, man. Okay, so I already talked about that. Granularity, yada yada. So having events is good. You're getting there. You're capturing the data. But now you actually need to show it, and you need to have an easy way to show the data. Goals. Goals are the things that you want to create in your Google Analytics account to then be able to evaluate different traffic sources against each other. Here's some examples of goals. And some of these are pretty generic and can honestly apply to any one of you, right? So things like, did somebody click on an email link to contact us? That's pretty indicative of like they want something, right? Like that's important. Did they download something? Did they log in? That's a key one. Social sharing, video play. Video play is important because videos usually cost a lot of money. So people want to know, like, should I make more videos? Well, no, because no one's clicking on the videos you already have. Social sharing usually depends. It really depends. But the goals can be anything, right? So these goals, they're generic. You can use some of these, it's totally fine. But your goals need to ladder up to your business objectives. And for that, you should talk to marketing folks, right? Because they're the ones that control the budget, that are driving the campaigns, and they have a very specific purpose of why they're trying to drive those campaigns. So this needs to be aligned with what they're trying to do. So if you have, for example, let's say certain forms that you want people to fill out. There's a white paper that you want people to download, and for them to fill out to get the file, they need to fill out a form. That's a conversion. That is something you should track, because what's going to happen? I think I have this. No, I don't have it. I think I have it towards the end in the recap. But basically, once you have goals, it's going to make your life so much easier to compare traffic sources against each other, devices against each other, different campaigns. All you're going to do is you're going to have a list of campaigns over here, you're going to have goal conversion over there, and it's going to show you paid search converts at 5%, paid social converts at 0. And you're going to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do paid social because it sucks. Right? So those are the kind of things you're going to be able to say based on the goals that you have. And to get the goals, you need to get events. If you just have the, out of the box, cookie cutter, GA implementation, where all you're doing is you're tracking sessions, you can't do any of that. You got no idea. All you're going to be able to say is like, this social campaign drove this many people. So, did they do what we wanted them to do? I don't know. So goals are the things that you need. So now we're gonna go to Drupal. Come on, man. So usually a lot of the work that I do and a lot of the work that you do will probably start something like this, right? You're gonna be like, well, they told me to implement Google Analytics, so I'm gonna type in Drupal Google Analytics. And you're gonna land on that page, which is, the default thing that you can install. But that's actually not the thing that you should do. That's the easiest thing that you can do, but that's not the best thing that you can do. What you really should be doing is Google Tag Manager. That is going to give you so much flexibility. Before I get into more GTM stuff, has anyone set up GTM before, and how long did it take you?
So installing the code was pretty easy.
Yep.
Actually setting up the events and firing things in GTM actually took
Yep.
more time.
How long? Roughly. Days, hours, weeks?
So it was probably a couple of days.
Couple of days. Okay. Sam?
Yeah,
Couple days?
pretty much so.
Couple of days? Okay.
Maybe weeks even, because
Weeks.
I had a, like, believe it or not, like